Welcome back to part 2 of the Brother LX3817 tutorial. In this video, we're going to explore every single stitch this machine can do. Think of it as your complete reference guide. So bookmark it now, and then you can come back anytime you're working on a project. I'll also leave links in the description that take you straight to each stitch demo, so you can quickly find what you need. So grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and let's discover just how versatile this Brother LX3817 really is. And as you're watching, drop a comment and share what creative project ideas come to mind. I love hearing your inspiration. Let's start with the straight stitch. You'll see these 5 grouped together, numbers 6 through 10. These are all straight stitches. The only difference is how tight the stitch is. So if I zoom in real close here, you'll see from the first to the last, the stitches get longer. So let's see what that looks like when we sew them. Okay, there we go. I sewed them in order so we can compare them to the dial. These stitches, number 6 through 10, are going to be the standard ones that you use for most of your sewing. And then you can adjust the size of the stitches for different projects. You may use a tighter stitch when you want more strength, like a purse or a backpack. And then you'll use the biggest stitch for basting or a gather stitch. Let me show you how to do a gather stitch now. When I do a gather stitch, I like to lock in the stitch at the beginning so that as I pull it, I don't accidentally pull out the thread. So I'm actually going to start on stitch number 6. I'm going to sew forward just a couple of stitches and then backwards right over those same stitches. Now I'm going to switch my stitch to that longest stitch, number 10. And then the last step is to loosen that top tension. I like to bring this down to a 2. It just makes it a lot easier to gather the fabric. And then I'll sew my gather line. You want to sew as straight as possible when you do this so that it gathers cleanly. Once you've reached the end of the fabric, use the hand wheel on the top and turn it towards you until the needle is at the topmost position. Then lift the presser foot and pull the fabric out while holding the thread against it to keep it steady. Give yourself at least 3 or 4 inches of extra thread coming off the fabric so that you have enough to work with when you start pulling the thread. Now you can pull that top thread and just keep working your way backwards towards the beginning stitch until you have it gathered the way you like. And you'll notice here, because I locked in the stitch on the other side, I don't have to worry about pulling it out. I can pull this pretty firmly. Now once I have it exactly gathered as I like, I tie the end of these 2 threads together at the end and then just cut the thread. This last stitch you'll notice here is number 11. It looks a little bit different. This oval and dot is showing the needle placement in relation to the opening on the presser foot. You'll notice here the dot is in the center, and so the stitches come off the center of this oval. But on the number 11 stitch, that dot is to the left of that center line, which means the needle is going to be all the way left as far as it'll go. You'll want to be careful with this stitch. The needle is not centered, so your seam allowance guide is going to be off. Also, you'll need to be careful of the presser foot you use with this stitch. The zipper foot is designed to work with it as well, but you'll need to make sure you attach it correctly on the leftmost side. Attaching it to the right will damage the foot and the needle. There are other uses for this stitch number 11 that I'll get into in a more advanced tutorial for this sewing machine that's coming soon. In the meantime, comment below how you think you would use this stitch. For now, if you're going to sew a zipper using this zipper foot, I suggest using one of the first 5 standard stitches because they're very user-friendly and you won't hit the zipper foot with these stitches. The owner's manual says to use stitch number 9. You could also use stitch number 8 if you need the zipper to be a little more firmly installed, again for like a backpack or a purse. This machine comes with 4 different options for zigzag stitches. You'll notice that number 2, 3, and 4 vary in width and tightness. 2 is a narrow zigzag with a tighter stitch, and then number 4 is the widest with a longer stitch. Stitch number 5 is the widest zigzag, and it gives you 3 options on how tight you would like the stitch. The next stitch on our dial is number 12, and it's called the blind hem stitch. To use this stitch, you'll need to prepare your fabric with a double fold. To prep the fabric for this stitch, With the wrong side of the fabric facing up towards me, I'm going to fold this edge over and press it. Next, bring the fabric up and over that raw edge, creating your second fold, and press that really well. Now I'm going to line up this fold towards the left side of the opening of my presser foot so that I can just see the fold through this little oval opening. And now I can stitch, and you'll notice that the straight stitches go on this side, and then just one stitch crosses over into that fold on the left and hits just the edge of the fold. You'll definitely want to use a scrap piece of fabric to test this with until you get the hang of it and learn exactly where that left stitch will land. You want it to just barely catch the edge of that fold. I'm using red thread here so that you can really see clearly what this stitch looks like and how it works. But when using this for real, you're going to want to find the closest matching thread you can to your fabric. Stitch number 14 is the same as stitch number 12, but it's for stretch fabrics. If you think you'll be doing a lot of blind hem sewing, I highly recommend upgrading to a blind hem foot. They're inexpensive, easy to attach, and compatible with this Brother sewing machine. Once you try it, you'll wonder how you ever managed without it. See the description below for a link to all my favorite sewing accessories. Stitch number 13 has a lot of different uses. It's called an elastic stitch, but it can also be used for mending and joining fabric. When using it for attaching elastic, line up the elastic so that it's right down the center of the standard presser foot. Stitch a couple of stitches to hold it in place, stretch the elastic, and then stitch. To use the stitch to attach two pieces of fabric together, bring the two pieces together so that the edges are centered at the presser foot, and then stitch. And you'll see that it top stitches them together very securely. Stitch number 15 is also called an overedge stitch. This is a great stitch that finishes the raw edge of fabric, which stops it from fraying and makes it really strong. I like to use this stitch to join two pieces of fabric together and finish the edge at the same time. You can also sew at your desired seam allowance. Here I'm showing it at a 5/8 inch seam allowance. Then when you're done, you can trim the fabric to the sewn edge. Stitch number 16 is called a double action stitch. It can be used as a decorative zigzag stitch for top stitching. It also works very well with a double needle and two different colors of thread. I'll be showing that in a more advanced video for this sewing machine coming soon. Stitch number 17 is called a bridging stitch, and it's probably one of the most fun stitches that this sewing machine does. A bridging stitch is a decorative technique that joins two pieces of fabric together, but then there's a gap in between that creates this lacy decorative effect. This is a great way to add lace to the edge of fabric because it leaves a little see-through area. I'll also get into this stitch a bit more in the advanced tutorial. But one way I like to use this is to connect fabric using washi tape so that it stays the correct width apart. You can remove the tape as you go, or you can sew right over it and then just tear it away when you're done with the stitch. And you're left with this beautiful edge. Sewing buttonholes on this machine is really easy. The first thing we're going to do is remove the standard presser foot by lowering the foot, holding onto the front and back of the foot with your left hand, and then lift the presser foot up to release that standard foot. Now let's attach the buttonhole foot. Make sure the front is closest to you like this, and then we're going to line up that little metal bar and then slowly lower the foot to attach. Use a ruler to measure the button and then draw it on your fabric. I like to use these washable markers. If you're using dark fabric, you can use tailor's chalk. Clearly mark your start and stop lines. You'll notice as we look at this buttonhole stitch guide, you're going to start with the center one labeled AC. And if you look closely, you'll see here A is the first stitch that's going to start this buttonhole. So you'll want your buttonhole foot to be slid all the way back, and then you're going to line up your fabric so that that bottom of the buttonhole is lined up with that start opening. Now stitch about 6 or 7 stitches. After each section, make sure that you turn the hand crank so that the needle is in the up position. Now turn the dial to the stitch labeled B. This is going to be the left side of the buttonhole, and it's going to sew backwards. Sew backwards until you see the end of your buttonhole mark. Now turn the dial again to the center stitch, and we're going to do the bar tack that's labeled C, the back of the buttonhole. Stitch about 6 or 7 stitches. Now turn the stitch dial to D, and we're going to sew the right side of the buttonhole coming back towards you. Go slow with this, and as soon as you reach the front bar tack, stop. To secure the buttonhole, turn the hand wheel until the needle is in the down position, and then lift the presser foot and turn the fabric counterclockwise 90 degrees. Change the stitch wheel back to number 6 and sew straight stitches to the end of that front bar tack. If you notice that the left and right side of the buttonhole stitching is not balanced, you can use this adjustment here. If the left side is too open of a stitch, turn this clockwise. If the left side is too tight, turn it counterclockwise. Make sure you always do buttonholes on test fabric first to get this perfectly balanced before doing your project. Now you can remove the fabric, and we're going to cut open the buttonhole. We're going to do this by pinning the inside of the front and back bar tacks, and we're going to use a seam ripper to cut it open. The pins will stop us from going too far and cutting the bar tack, but you still want to go very slow and careful with this, and make sure you use a brand new sharp seam ripper. Be sure to like and subscribe so that you'll be alerted when part 3 comes out. I'll be showing you how to use more of the optional accessories that come with this machine, like the button foot, the darning plate, and more. Thanks so much for watching, and happy sewing!